It's the final weekend as far as Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Sprint Cup is concerned. And that means it's a championship deciding weekend with the pro category to be fought out this weekend by Dries Van Thor and Charles Weert's BMW. They are the championship leaders by just 2 points from Mercedes AMG drivers Maro Engel and Lucas Auer. Maro Engel, who is for the third time in with a shout at winning this title. He's never won it. Lost it, if you remember, in 2019 on a tie-break even. That is how close it has been in the past for him. He would dearly love to take the championship this year. Whereas, of course, Weerts and Van Thor are looking for a 4th Sprint Cup title. We've also got gold, silver and bronze to factor in. There's one of the Bronze Cup cars that Dan Harper is going to do driving duties in first up in this 10-minute qualifying session, which will determine the grid for today's race. That will hit the track at 2 o'clock local time this afternoon. David Addison and John Watson trackside, and a few moments ago, Watty, we were having this brief debate between ourselves as to who might possibly get pole position. It's wide open.
I'll turn the microphone and answer and say, yes, you're right, because it's 10 minutes, 32 cars on track. It's going to be very difficult. 2 things. One, you've got to use your new tyres, max them out on the opening flying lap, and you've got to do that without falling over traffic that's going out on the lap or finishing a lap. It's very, very tight, very tough for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're in a 48 Mercedes there or in the 32 BMW. For everybody, it's a real pressure qualifying. 10 minutes, and if you don't get it done on your first flying lap, you might be lucky and get a second lap in. But it is the character, the nature of this circuit in Barcelona. It always is difficult because it changes. It's a living thing. It changes by the lap.
There is the situation within the overall category, and there's a point for pole position here, so that margin may not change, may grow, may shrink, depending on who takes the fastest time. As we say, it is only 10 minutes. As far as bronze is concerned, you've got then 9.5 points between the Dan Harper, Darren Lung BMW that you're looking at, and British GT champion Rob Collard sharing here with the man that he defeated in the UK, Sandy Mitchell. But they team up in Europe, and they are second in bronze, so they're still in with the chance. And the outsiders for Sky Tempesta Racing, Jonathan Hui and Eddie Cheever, but don't rule them out. Dustin Blattner and Dennis Marshall have had an up-and-down kind of a season for Rutronic Racing, Klaus Graf's team. But again, they could spring a surprise result over the 2 races this weekend. The Barcelona circuit, which of course plays host to the Spanish Grand Prix, has a real mix. Quick corners, not that many slow corners, and that might help, for example, the Aston Martin that likes a nice flowing circuit. But John, this is the lap. Yeah,
it's 4.6 kilometres, 14 turns, and already we're halfway around the lap up to turn 9, one of those challenging corners. Then the next corner to challenge is turn 14, back onto start, finish straight. And that's on the revised circuit layout that was introduced a couple of years ago. That really pathetic chicane that used to come after the exit of turn 13 has now been deleted, thankfully. And the flow of the circuit, to me, is a much more natural circuit. But it is predominantly a right-hand corner circuit, beginning with turn 3. Long corner, and you can just feel you get midway through it. That left front, is it going to hold? Is it holding, or is it beginning to give up? And if it begins to give up on turn 3, then you might as well write your lap off, because it ain't going to get any better all the way through the next 11 corners.
And let's get the other elephant in the room out of the way, if you like. Track limits, which are being very carefully monitored at turn 9, as John explained it, one of those challenging corners. Turn 10, which is at the end of that next straight, and it's quite an elongated hairpin. Also turn 13, the penultimate right-hander. So around the circuit, that's being looked at, and in this qualifying session, if you transgress, you lose the lap. Now, Callan Williams and Sam DeHaan are ahead in silver, and Sam DeHaan not here this weekend. It is Sean Delisle who will take over, as out then now go the cars from the Mercedes AMG ranks, Ferraris as well, 1 or 2 just being held at the end of the pit lane. But the road is getting busy, and this is going to be a fascinating session. Cars 30 and 32 have to start after all the other cars. They were off the apron onto the fast lane too early, we understand, so they are being released at the end of the queue.
Well, you could understand why Sean Delisle would want to get out as early as possible, because he only arrived here yesterday afternoon. He didn't take part in the practice session and then the pre-qualifying. And they had to swap around the driver lineups, who would do Q1, who would do Q2, because if Sean Gallal hadn't taken part in Q1, then he technically wouldn't be qualified to race in race one this afternoon. So no doubt there we just see the BMW going out of sight, and there's coming back in. Sean Gallal comes around, and I mean, he's familiar with BMWs racing in North America, but on a different brand of tyre. So it's all a little bit of a, well, let's work it out. The car he knows, the tyre character and personality, that's a different deal.
Yeah, you've seen him racing in the World Endurance Championship this year, so as John rightly says, he knows the car, but a different feel. And this is a circuit he's raced at in Formula 2, but coming into it in a GT car is also a rather different feel. So, it's a long lap, 4.6 kilometres. That means by the time you've done your out lap, you've nibbled into the session's allocated 10 minutes, never mind getting in one, maybe two flying laps. So you've got to be precise. And John, we say it all the time, although drivers still push the envelope a little bit. In 10 minutes, you do not have the opportunities to muck about and exceed track limits, because you need every possible lap.
Well, the penalty is not just the penalty you might be given for track limit abuse. It's the fact that you've wasted a lap on a set of tyres that, keep repeating it, in Barcelona, the tyre will be at its best on its first flying lap. Now, the ambient and track temperatures are relatively low right now. They're 18.2 on track, 18.3 ambient. So that's good for the tyres. It's even better for the cars and for the motors in particular. And just watching the 48 coming out, Lucas Auer behind the wheel of that Winward Racing Mercedes, just on the limit. But it's Ben Green and now Dan Harper. Oh, where did you hear that before? Dan Harper in the BMW going purple in Sector 1.
Who was last year's British GT champion with Darren Lung. There is Mauro Engel looking on. He will end up, of course, being in the car in the stint 2 for the race. First time he'll have driven all day. It really is tough on that second driver. The same is true tomorrow. The first time you're in the car is when you're thrown into it after the pit stop. You've got to get out there and instantly turn it on and deliver, having had no mileage all day. So Lucas Auer will be a man to watch. And remember, in terms of this session, there is that point on the table for pole, and that could really be crucial as far as the Mercedes-AMG team here is concerned. It's the Winward Racing team man filter entering. Lucas Auer at the wheel, second in the championship, and he's on it. Indeed
he is, but also Ben Green is in the Ferrari. He's got purple in the middle sector, but watching the 48 Mercedes, Dan Harper got green. The lap time we had 1 year ago in qualifying was a 1:39.017. We didn't get near that yesterday. We won 4, but the second down on it yesterday. So what's going to happen this morning? Well, the first lap is Lucas Auer, 1:40.008.
We've not yet had anything out of number 32 BMW, which you can never write off. There is 96 Porsche, which has got Sven Müller at the wheel of it for this first activity of the day. Maxi Goetz has done a purple in the middle, and Sven Müller goes top of the times, 1:39.794. They came so close to winning, of course, that Manny Court did win on the road, but for a penalty, and they need to try and redress that in sprint terms before the end of the year. Porsche fastest then at Barcelona.
Indeed, look, Max Goetz has gone quickest now. Purple, those 1:39.3. So literally, as cars complete a lap, and again, this is their first flying lap. So the pro drivers in particular know the value and the importance of getting out there, getting that clear lap, and using the best that Pirelli have got when the tyre is just getting up to its optimum performance.
Sandy Mitchell has, in the Bronze Cup, gone 5th, 1:40.134. This is the sister Barwell Lamborghini, Patrick Cuellar at the wheel of it, and he has gone better than anybody within the first sector, and he's up to second overall now. Patrick Cuellar, much underrated. Finn, 1:39.548.163 down on Maxi Goetz.
I mean, almost by the car coming across the line, we're seeing significant changes all the way from the top to the bottom. Right now, it is the 991 Dan Harper, who is yet to actually record a time. We saw Dan Harper putting up a purple sector in Sector 2, I think it was. But that car, the 991 BMW Paradigm Competition, that's the entrant of the car, is yet to record a time.
As here is Aurélien Panis, who is third fastest, but he's down in the first sector on this lap. Quite a few cars making their way to the pit lane, possibly for another set of boots. And Aurélien Panis not improving on this lap. So this is the car that is currently fastest within the silver competition. So third overall, a silver pole but silver is behind bronze. Where's the leading gold at the moment? You would find number 21, David Pittard's Aston Martin that he shares with Matty Slismont, and David Pittard has got the gold pole for the minute, 6th overall.
So we've just got 4 minutes remaining. The number 7, the Spa 24-hour winning Aston Martin, Nicholas Bart behind the wheel. Matteo Drudi will take that car over qualifying tomorrow morning. And in fact, yes, it was David Pittard in that pre-qualifying session in the heat of the afternoon who ended up quickest overall for the Come To You Racing Aston Martin team.
David Pittard, who has really made a name for himself in long-distance German events, won the Nürburgring 24 Hours and drove with the Valkenhorst team. When they started running Aston Martins, he was brought back into the fold, if you like, to a British brand. But David Pittard still very, very quick and a good guy to have in your team, that is for sure, because he's rapid, rarely makes mistakes, and very experienced. He's done an awful lot of endurance racing over the years, having plugged away in UK club racing for season after season until finally a break came his way. This is Lucas Leggeret in the meantime. He's another of those within gold and 7th overall now. Lucas Leggeret 41 thousandths shy of David Pittard.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very, very close grid. And again, but normally this would be an endurance event at the end of the calendar, but this year it's going to be 2 one-hour sprint events, a different dynamic. Teams are going to have to approach it more from a, let's say, a racing perspective than, let's say, an endurance perspective. Nevertheless, the pit stops, the mandatory pit stops, will undoubtedly be a part of who will come out on top.
Yeah, one of the other aspects of this weekend is that although it is a Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe weekend, it's also a major event within the circuit, and so there's a lot more than just racing. Behind where we are overlooking the main straight, there are lots of local car clubs and automotive trade stands and displays, parades over the weekend of different machines as well. So perhaps the sprint format fits better for the event promoter Jesus Pozzo and what he's trying to achieve for the local fans. Right, this is Dan Harper. This is going to be a proper lap, puts him 6th.
So he's at the races with a lap time 6th quickest. He'd like to be a little bit further up. 3rd row of the grid is not bad, but bear in mind that everybody around you is going to be within the hundredths, if not thousands, of a second.
Great shot from the drone as it comes up towards turn 13, chasing Sean Galisle there, who's going to get the jump. There's that sort of bypass down to the chicane, thankfully ignored these days. Bit of a twitch for the BMW there.
Yes, currently 27th quickest, so I assume he's going onto a flying lap now. The lap he's concluding is not a what I would call competitive lap.
And he'll take the flag at the end of this next lap because there is now less than a lap time left in the session. We have Aurelian Panis under investigation for speeding in the pit lane, and we've got Sven Müller under investigation for speeding in the pit lane, and they are 3rd and 4th in the times respectively.
Sean Galisle does not look happy. The BMW is not planted as it came through the exit of turn 2. You saw the back of the car just move around a little bit. Further up the road, you can see the Paradigm Competitions car. That's Dan Harper. That car looks, to me, that's more about getting tyre temperature and getting adjusted. And as we mentioned, Sean Galisle is racing in America on a different tyre brand. Maybe that's just where the differences are lying.
Lucas Auer, purple in the middle. Now, where in all of this is 32 BMW? We've not yet mentioned Dries van Thor because he's only 15th. So at the moment, no point for pole for either of the two championship fighters. Lucas Auer was down in sector 1, but he's quicker than anybody in sector 2 and goes 2nd fastest. He misses out by 94 thousandths of a second to Maxi Goetz. So the top time for Goetz and Dries van Thor is down to 17th now, and there are 6 seconds of the session to go. I'm waiting to see when 32 BMW crosses the line. It's in the last sector. Van Thor is down to 19th now.
Checkered flag.
Sandy Mitchell, absolute best middle sector. Voice in the background you've just heard is race director Alain Adol saying to everybody that the checkered flag is out. And it looks as though Maxi Goetz is going to take the Rover Motor Oil pole position award. Sean Galisle's having a mare. In fact, BMWs are in general, aren't they? The best of them. 12th, Dries van Thor. He's just improved, but only 12th fastest.
Well, in yesterday's sessions they didn't show either, but that doesn't really matter, and everybody tends to think if they're not doing particularly well in the sessions, they're only there to give you track time. When it comes to the real deal, which is qualifying, they're going to be straight back up to where we normally see them. But so far, as you pointed out, David, the best one is Dries van Thor, now in 14th position, back on the 7th row of the grid, and he's now dropped down to 15th because people who are completing the lap and Patrick Kuijala, who has always been ahead of Dries van Thor, he's now gone significantly quickest in that middle and goes quickest overall with a pretty impressive lap, 1:39.091, which is almost a match for the time set a year ago by Jules Gunnar as Lucas Auer comes up to complete his final lap. This is not going to be an overall improvement, but anyway, he's done his 3rd overall.
Yeah.
Kuijala quickest, then the 2 Mercedes.
And another Mercedes 4th, Aurelian Panis, Aston Martin 5th, David Pittard, and 6th, Sven Muller. Disappointment in a sense that the Lucas Auer car from Winward Racing isn't fastest, but significantly, John, number 48 is going to start 3rd on the grid. Championship rival 32 BMW, 18.
No, it's scary, put it that way. So how do you offset that gap between the 48 and the 32? The only way I can see it happening is you have a blinder of a start if you're either the Mercedes or the BMW, but ultimately it'll come down to then pit stops and who can get in and out quickest, cleanest, but also the driver who doesn't make any errors, no driving errors, no track limit abuses, nothing that could penalise you even further than a lowly mid-grid position. One
car that went out and never did a flying lap, James, driving solo in number 11. Ravan Umberescu taken ill yesterday, so force majeure, James has to go solo for the weekend. But he did a very slow first sector, very slow second, very slow third, came in, never did a lap time. So there's something not right with number 11 Aston Martin. Dan Harper had a lap time taken off him for track limit abuses. So we have number 72 Lamborghini on pole position provisionally, and Patrick Kuijala then from bronze. Well, we had that amazing situation in Monza, didn't we, of a car out of the pro category winning outright, and could it happen here? Well, number 72 Patrick Kuijala, we know, is an absolute gun. Gabriel Rindoni is, with respect to him, not going to be able to match the pace of the pro drivers around him in his stint, but a class win, he's very definitely there for the taking.
And in the case of this afternoon's race, starting from pole position, front row of the grid, means that this car should automatically be able to win its class comfortably. Now, having said that, things can happen on the run down into turn 1. We've seen contact occur in the middle of the corner, and it often happens at the very front of the field as much as it might happen midway through or to the tail of the field. But nevertheless, Patrick Kuijala has illustrated the pace that Lamborghini have got. And whether it's down to the temperature, ambient track temperatures having helped the Lamborghini, or whether just sheer brilliance on the part of Patrick Kuijala, maybe a bit of both.
Mark Lemmer at Barwell might say brilliance on the part of the team for getting the right setup, getting a beautifully balanced car. Patrick Kuijala, who came to prominence really driving Lamborghinis in Super Trofeo after he got to GP3 level, we don't really see enough of. And again, yes, as a peripatetic GT driver, there's a drive to be had pretty much every weekend, but you always get the feeling with people like him that it would be even better to see him in a pro car just to be able to fight for wins. But this weekend, he's here to help Gabriel Rindoni as best he can, and how's that for a start? He takes the Rover Motor Oil Pole Position Award. We'll no doubt hear from Patrick in due course. A quick reminder that local time, 2 o'clock is when the race starts this afternoon. Well, it's a busy weekend of GT racing here. There's also Fanatec GT2 European Series. There is McLaren Trophy Europe and Lamborghini Super Trofeo, which gets 3 races. The rescheduled hungover Le Mans race that didn't happen on race day is being run here as a replacement round. So lots and lots to enjoy at the circuit or on the stream. But as far as Patrick Kuijala is concerned, and Lamborghini and Barwell Motorsport, great start to the morning. That mug of espresso he must have had has done him proud, because that was quite a lap. Very nearly 3/10 up the road from anybody else.
I mean, that is significant. When you normally think about 20 cars being covered by a second around the circuit, to have 3/10 of a second advantage over the next best, Max Goetz in the number 9 Mercedes, the Boots and VDS team, sharing Jules Gunnar, the man who had fastest pole time last year. So that's a very competitive car, whichever way you look at it. But Patrick Kuijala, in a bronze entry Lamborghini, has put that car onto pole.
And there is the Rover Pole Award. And Antonia Rankin, microphone in hand, is down there to have a word with Patrick before he walks away.
What an absolutely exceptional lap.
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, the car
felt great for that one lap. Let's see now for the race. I know the degradation here is much higher than what we had in Monza, but yeah, really happy with the result.
Do you think you'll be able to hang on with all the other pro drivers around you?
I know I can. It's just a matter of, does it make any sense? We are in a different class, so at the end of the day, we are searching for the best result in our class, not overall. So, of course, I'm going to try to stay ahead, make my life easier, but of course, always with some kind of reason, always.
Huge congratulations, well done.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Kugler, I think, has identified the reasons why this driver have done so well, to have such an advantage over everybody else in the field. And again, thinking forward to the race, it isn't important to win, it's important to win your class, the bronze category. And of course, again, as you go into your stint, maybe it'll be 25 or 35, whatever minutes the team choose to do, the tyre degradation will affect everybody around you, but it may affect you more or less than your principal competition. I mean, we'd love to see that car purely from the joy that you say of a bronze entry leading the pro entries to lead to the point when their pit lane opens for that quick pit stop entry.
And it could well happen because we know just how good Patrick Kugler is. He's outpaced Maxi Goetz by very nearly 0.3 of a second. Lucas Auer third, ahead of Aurelien Panis. Sven Muller fifth. Then Ricardo Feller, outgoing Sprint Cup champion, ahead of Ben Green and Eddie Cheever. He did a good job, didn't he? Another of the bronzes in the Ferrari to be eighth, ahead of Louis Pret. And Sandy Mitchell rounding out the top 10. Alessio Dono was next from Thierry Vermeulen. David Pittard was clear of teammate Dante Rapponge. 15th, Lucas Legeret. Then Nicolas Bart from Ezequiel Perez Compact, not in the Mad Panda Mercedes, but in the Santa Lock Audi this weekend. Only 18th, Dries van Thor, ahead of Ugo de Wilde. And 20th for Porsche in the hands of Dennis Marshall. Benjamin Goethe 21st, ahead of Lorenzo Ferrari, Dylan Pereira and Stephen Palette. Then Reece Ball 25th, ahead of Dan Harper. So losing that lap time for track limits really hurt. He was ahead of Gilles Magnus, who really seemed to struggle in that session. Then Simon Reicher ahead of Max Hofer, also a long way down. Then Jeff Machiels, Sean Galal struggling again with that rather recalcitrant BMW. And James Jakes not getting in a lap time at all. So that's the order at the end of the session. Let's have a quick look at the highlights of it, which began with the BMWs 30 and 32 being held, having to join the end of the line. Seemed that they were on the fast lane a little bit previous. Sven Muller, quick early on, under investigation. They were speeding in the pit lane. And a BMW that really never came alive was this car. Dries van Thor really struggling, trying to buy himself some clear track space. But the BMWs in general just not looking as happy as other brands. Second fastest in the end would be number 9. Which is the Maxi Goetz car. This is third, Lucas Auer. Second for Maxi Goetz in number 9, Mercedes. But fastest, Patrick Kugler for Barwell. And that's the bronze pole as well as overall pole. And we'll see what he can do when the lights change at 2 o'clock this afternoon.